Hey everyone, Rho here. Today we're talking the latest sighting of the Silent King. No need for a spoiler warning today, so let's waste no time and jump straight in. Now, a few weeks ago we asked the question of where is the Silent King? Something prompted by a question from one of you. Just where has he gone? Why has it gone so quiet since he returned? And so we had a little speculation of just what the Silent King was up to, with it largely coming down to the contra-Empyric nexuses across the galaxy. Me feeling that most likely the Silent King has been busy marshalling his grand strategy and plan across the stars, not to mention re-establishing his control of the dynasties. And well, now we're not left to the guesses anymore, as we've actually received a little more information, a sighting of Sarek himself in the latest edition of White Dwarf. And for me, there's some pretty interesting insights we can take away from this one. Now, what we're told is of the Silent King's arrival to Flashpoint Nephilim, which is one of the many Necron contra-Empyric nexuses or matrices across the galaxy. The Pariah Nexus, for example, as one was known to the Imperium. And well, the first thing that is made very apparent is the sheer overwhelming power that the Silent King represents. Nobles and pharaohs of tons of dynasties assembled to pay homage upon his arrival. The surface of an entire moon is eradicated of any trace of other civilizations, so to not offend him, the Necrons literally grind it all down to sand. And even more daunting is when the Silent King does arrive, his ship, or Warbark as it is known to the Necrons, is even bigger than the entire moon itself. So we know the Silent King is sailing the galaxy on a vessel of immense power. Something that, given the size of it, could well be akin to a Blackstone fortress. Now, befitting the Silent King's prominence, we might expect something like that, but it is good to get some actual reinforcement of it. We know when he left for his exile, he did so with legions of his own warriors. So I think it's safe to assume that Sarek's Warbark is one of the most formidable vessels currently in the galaxy. Now, as far as Sarek's purpose in coming to this particular nexus, well, it appears to be twofold. The first is vocally reaffirming his support for Illuminor Serraz, who, as we know back in the Psychic Awakening campaign, is the cryptech behind the Necron's anti-warp matrix, or at least the most important cryptech involved. Why the Silent King is doing this isn't explicitly stated. He's clearly unhappy with the success the Imperium is having in fighting back against his forces. It could simply be a way to keep Illuminor Serraz's ego inflated, and thus keeping his allegiance. Or perhaps it was to quell any insubordination from other cryptechs or pharaons, which leads us on to Sarek's second reason for coming to this nexus, which appears to be establishing order. As I said earlier, a few weeks ago we speculated that the Silent King could perhaps be finding it harder to re-establish complete control, and it appears for all his undoubted power, that could well be the case, as the politicking and rivalries between the pharaons, even within this battle zone, have continued. So much it seems Sarek has had to come and assume leadership in person, to get his plan back on track, or risk losing this campaign entirely. It is worth remembering, in order for the Silent King's plan to work, his nexus has to cast its net across the entire galaxy. Now, the presence of the Silent King is obviously a game changer in terms of the campaign, We're told he's able to command hundreds of thousands of nobles across the dynasties at once, which at the very least is putting him on a par with Guilliman in terms of command skill. And let's be honest here, most likely even above what a Primarch could do. For the mere seconds it would take Guilliman to absorb and process all the information, Sarek could do it instantly. And so obviously the Necron counterattack is very successful against Imperium forces, with some references to Sarek's unmatchable power. My absolute favourite of which is him teleporting up all the Necron forces on a world and completely obliterating it Death Star style because the Imperium commander ignored one of his Pharaon's challenges. I mean, it's so over the top, it's brilliant. It gives you a sense of the kind of scale we're dealing with when it comes to the Silent King. He was fighting to clear a world, but due to an insult he just destroyed it instead. Something he clearly could have done from the very outset. Sarek most likely could destroy his way through the galaxy akin to a hive fleet, just destroying one world after another. But the fact is, he's choosing not to do that. He's fighting to reclaim it, to reclaim his infinite empire, to save it from the flood of the Immaterium. The Imperium is simply getting in his way. For all that might and intent, however, the pride and egos of the Pharaons beneath him continue to exist. For every victory the Necrons achieve, Sarek receives word of a Pharaon taking the opportunity to destroy a rival in the midst of battle, or refusing to reinforce another. And so even with his presence in this particular campaign, still it's not enough to completely quell the Necron-Pharaon rivalries. Something that must really feel for Sarek like a return to the Necron-Tyr Empire of old, before the pact with the treacherous Catan. That's perhaps the biggest insight of all, that no matter how hard the Silent King tries, no matter how powerful he is, he simply can't be everywhere at once, and Necron Pharaons will always be scheming and plotting to gain more of their own power. It's just in their nature. Without the command protocols that Sarek used to have, he will never be able to completely trust those around him. Because for every vocal opponent such as Imhotep, there's a dozen Pharaons loyal to him, calculating their own path to power. I really love the intrigue and power playing that goes on within the dynasties. I really hope we get to see more of this moving forward. Regardless though, Sarek's actions appear to have put the Necron forces back on the forward step, and it's stated his intents are to ensure the same for the other nexuses across the galaxy. So it's great to finally know exactly what the Silent King is up to, and it's even better knowing it's very similar to what we thought he could be doing, orchestrating the Matrix campaigns across the galaxy, and ensuring his control of the dynasties, which does make a lot of sense. Unfortunately for him, the fight back from the Imperium has clearly forced him to take a more direct action, taking control himself. What I'd love now is to find out what's going on with Imhotep. How is he reacting to the Silent King's actions? Is he still opposed, planning to confront him in force? Or is he playing his own schemes and power play, attempting to bring more dynasties to his side? Those questions remain to be answered, but one thing we now know for certain is that the Silent King is back, and he is on the move. But as always everyone, what do you think? Has the Silent King's hand been forced by the Imperium? Or is it more to do with the actions of the dynasties? Is the greatest threat to Sarek's plan from without, or from within? And with Sarek's intentions to move to the other nexuses across the galaxy, is it only a matter of time before he faces Guilliman himself? In a campaign face-off between the two, who is your money on? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? With that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.